Hi there, this is Dario Ponissi from Joint Adventure. Our continuing journey of exploration is taking us into ever more interesting territory. In fact, today we'll learn 2 more major chords. We will also talk about other things such as chord sliding and a thing called demi-bar. All this in a moment. Okay, let's start from the 2nd fret of your guitar and see what notes do we find on the 2nd fret of your guitar. On the 6th string, 2nd fret, we find F sharp. On the 5th string, we will find B. On the 4th string, we find an E. On the 3rd string, we will find an A. On the 2nd string, we will find a C sharp. And on the 1st string, we will find again an F sharp. Because the 1st string and the 6th string basically are the same note. Okay, we have spoken now of sharps, but you have to understand that we can also speak about flats. In this case, for instance, let's go to the 6th string. We have an F sharp, but it's also equal to a G flat. In other words, the sharp raises the note. If I have an F, which is on the 1st fret of the 6th string, if I move 1 fret, I will raise the note of half a tone, and this is called F sharp. If I continue on this string, I will find a G. When I go back, this note, which is the same note, it's called G flat. There are many different reasons for this. In music theory, there are lots of explanations. Just imagine for now that basically when you want to raise a note of half a tone, you will call it sharp. And when you want to lower the note of half a tone, you will have a flat. In this case, F sharp or G flat. Is it clear? I hope it's clear. If it's not, you can ask me questions. So, in the space that you find under the video, you can basically ask questions and I will answer you. Okay, this is the first thing I wanted to talk about. And let's see now a different theme, which I call chord sliding. What's chord sliding? Let's take an E chord, for instance. No? This is a sample of an E chord. We have done it in a different lesson, so you might remember it. But if you don't remember, I will try to show it to you again. I have an assistant right here. Hello, Achille, how are you? Okay, so I put my forefinger on 3rd string, 1st fret. Then I put my middle finger on 5th string, 2nd fret. And my ring finger on 4th string, 2nd fret. This is an E major chord. Okay, so when I talk about sliding of the chord or chord sliding, basically I keep the same shape of the E chord, but I move it. I can move it of moving like 1 fret up the neck, obtaining this interesting sound. Why I wanted to do this? Because somewhere in our episodes we spoke about Spanish atmosphere. A Spanish atmosphere, which is always a nice thing to hear. No? Okay, so for instance, with a very simple sliding of the same chord, we can reach a Spanish atmosphere, which is kind of interesting, even for a person who starts playing, who has started playing in just recently. So let's try it together. I will do 4 times an E, and then I will slide the chord of 1 fret, just 1 fret, and let's see what happens. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I slide 2, 3, 4. Again 1, 2, 3, 4. Again 2, 3, 4. It's just a nice effect. It's a nice thing to, even as a practice basically, because it kind of gets you used to move your fingers without taking them off. No, it's just sliding. The more you study, the more you learn things, the more you will realize that fingers seldom detach from the strings. As much as possible, they stay in contact with the strings. Let's bring it a bit further. So we have seen that moving one fret up the neck, we obtain this kind of effect. But if you move it from this position another 2 frets, okay, in other words, you have the middle finger on the first dot on the side of your fretboard of your neck. Let's see what happens if we put them together. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Change 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go a bit farther. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just very nice. You know, of course, you can do a lot of different strumming. You know? Now I'm doing a very simple strum from up to down. Okay, this way. I can also change the strumming and make it more interesting in this way, making like a counter stroke, let's say. So I can go from up to down and from down to up. Right now I'm using my thumb, but you can use a pick without any problem. Okay. This way. And you can add any kind of variation that you would like to try. Of course, you have to be very. You have to try and experiment also on your own. Of course, I can give you hints, but because we cannot communicate directly, you also have to try and experiment on your own. I trust you. I have lots of trust in your abilities. So this is basically the chord sliding. It can apply to other chords as well. We have tried this chord shape, the chord shape of A, but you can also do it with A. We saw this probably in the first lesson, if I remember well. It's the same thing. Sliding 1 fret. It's a nice sound. Now sliding 2 frets. It's just a very nice, interesting atmosphere, basically. And you can have what is called a Spanish atmosphere. Later on, when we will see how to build a solo, we will find out also what kind of scales, what kind of notes you need to play on top of this chord progression. Let's call it that way. Okay, I wanted to talk about one more thing. Your fingertips. Your fingertips have to be, if you want to see what happens, I don't know if you can see. Okay. This is what happens to your finger after a while. It doesn't hurt anymore because my fingertips now have harder skin. They have little calluses. No problem. Actually, after a while you practice, you will get this harder skin and you won't even notice. But it's important that you practice a lot so that after a while the strings don't hurt you anymore. So what I urge you to do is to practice as much as possible on single strings. You could do chords too, but of course single strings are better. So for instance, this is an exercise that you can do, starting from the 6th string from the top and pressing one finger at a time on each fret. Okay, and coming back. Then you take a moment and then you go to the 5th string and do the same thing. Of course, you can change the speed of execution, and so on. You can do all the strings, and you will see that in a short while you will have basically developed these very interesting calluses, this harder skin on your fingers. The last thing I want to tell you is that you will need to develop also the range, I don't know how you want to call it, the possibility of your fingers to become more agile on the fretboard. So what you can do, a very simple exercise, is to place your fingers, I don't know if you can see from here, you can place your finger around the neck and push gently towards the top. Be careful, don't push too hard, because otherwise you might hurt yourself. But this is a nice way to widen the range of your fingers. Once you do it 4 or 5 times, you can do also the other fingers as well. If you do this every day, it's like doing an exercise on other parts of your body, basically, and it can be very, very helpful. And this is all for now for this explanation.